Hi everyone, and thank you so much for staying for the Q&A and award presentation for Rosemead. As I mentioned before, we are so excited to have Lucy Liu with us here in person tonight, receiving the Miami Film Festival's highest honor, the Precious Gem Award. Lucy Liu is, it goes without saying, an absolute icon. You of course know her from so many movies like Charlie's Angels and Kill Bill. She's a true Hollywood legend, but I think it goes, after seeing the film, you'll all agree that this is by far her most incredible work yet. And she has so much incredible work, but her performance in Rosemead truly touched our team so much. I think it's award-worthy. It's the kind of performance that taps into so many real human fears that all of us have, fears about the mental health of our loved ones, who's going to take care of our loved ones when we're not there. It's the kind of movie that really stuck with me after I saw it, and it hasn't left me since. And that is all because of Lucy's incredibly human performance and emotional performance in this that really just touched my heart in ways that I can't explain. So we are so proud to have shown this movie to you and to have Lucy here with her best work ever. So on behalf of Miami Film Festival, I'm so honored to present Lucy Liu with our Precious Gem Award. Thank you so much for being here, Lucy. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. So start thinking about your questions. So just tell us, how did you first hear about this story?
I just want to say thank you for this award and for showing up tonight. It really means a lot to the movie and for the crew. This movie is based on an LA Times article that was written in 2017, and the incident happened in 2015, so it wasn't really that long ago, and I was really surprised to know that it was only 10 years ago. And in that time, the pandemic has happened, and there's so much frailty, and so we really felt like it was an important story to bring, not just to our community, but to so many other cultures that don't really believe in the idea of somebody being sad, or that we kind of have to hide behind our feelings with social media and, kind of put this facade up for everyone to think that this is what our lives are like. And I thought it was it was a really modern idea of what this woman was feeling, but she wasn't able to put out, and how we all in society in some ways try to hide what we're feeling, and she ended up being very isolated and sequestered herself in a way that obviously she felt like she had run out of options.
Absolutely. And tell me about the journey to getting this film made, because not only do you star in it, you're also a producer on the film.
This movie took a lot, because a lot of people didn't necessarily think it was going to be a moneymaker, because it's a very difficult story to tell, and so we had the support of 16 financiers, which is a lot, because sometimes you guys just have one for a movie, if not anything at all. Everyone's just excited to do it, and I think we knew from the beginning that it was going to be a tough story for audiences. But what I found is that people really have so much to say about the movie and really connect to it. And that's what's so meaningful for all of us that have, been behind this movie and made it in the end.
I think that's what's so special about it, is that obviously it's so tough to watch, where the story lands at the end. But I think everyone watching, because of your performance in a large part, is completely understands where her brain is at. And it's really hard to put yourself in that headspace. And I know a lot of us, after we saw the movie, we were all talking about it, and everybody felt that pain of not knowing, of being scared of what happens to our loved ones when they're gone. And it's a really dark headspace to be in. What was it like filming in such a, hard, kind of emotional atmosphere?
I mean, it was really intense, but I think that what was good about knowing we were all working together on the crew with the stories, that people were able to talk to each other and talk about their own families or friends or people that they knew that things had happened to. And so it really opened up a dialogue that I think most people wouldn't talk about on a crew. And it brought a very strong sense of belonging and connection. And that was sort of the beginning of what we knew, that we had something special to share. And for me, I did a lot of the research with the language and the dialogue, and of course I grew up with immigrant parents, so it wasn't unfamiliar to me, that sense of family, that sense of uncomfortability that she had. And even when she was in her doctor's office appointment, she didn't quite understand what the doctor was telling her. And I think that there was so much that was lost in translation, and I think that there was nobody there to advocate for her. And I think she didn't know how to ask for help. And in the end, I think that's why she made such a detrimental choice, because she was operating out of fear.
Yeah, and not only are things getting lost in translation, it's also, there's these barriers between what her community kind of is used to when it comes to mental health treatment. There's a part where her friend says you're acting like a foreigner. And that's a big part of it. Was it very important to you to really highlight that theme about the stigma to mental health treatment?
There was, in fact, before the movie, before we shot the movie, actually in the script there was a scene that was written that was like almost an exorcism of her son by these Buddhist monks, that they would come and they were going to perform a spiritual, like customary, ritualistic performance to get these demons out of him. And I don't always question that, because it was a little alternative, even though it is something very real that happens. And we actually didn't have enough money to shoot it. So in the end, it wasn't in there. We didn't actually shoot it in the end, but I did think it was extreme, and I thought that the things that she was going through internally was almost enough to show the amount of stress. And even her friend just saying, "You sound like a foreigner," was enough. And hearing, people in the community saying, "Oh, he's taking some kind of Western medicine and it's gonna permanently damage your brain." I mean, I think there's a lot of stigma behind what everyone believes medication can do or therapy can do. And so those are the things that we're trying to bring to light in our community.
No, it's so well done. We'll take some questions from the audience. I see one right here. Oh yeah, she was asking what specifically kind of got your interest about a story like this instead of something maybe more Hollywood-esque.
I mean, I think commercial movies don't have a problem selling themselves, and I think this is a story that happened in our community, and I think less people are interested in, maybe backing it, but I think you shine a light on things like this, and it's something that's universal, and it's so precious to share something this intimate, to feel, that people are connecting. And I think the whole point of this story is to show that this does not have to be a true story. I mean, the fact that this was a true story is really a tragedy. And so, if it wasn't, nobody would really believe it. They would just think, oh, they really overwrote it. They just went to the extreme. It's unnecessary. It's a horror movie. But unfortunately, sometimes things that happen in real life are more horrific than things that you see in entertainment that is out there. And I want to have this story not repeated. And I think those details about the shoelace tying and those moments are really important, because to her, she was really being very specific and very detailed and ritualistic about loving her son and sending him to the next place. And I think not everyone knows at that time necessarily, unless you've read it, what's happening. I think a lot of people question, like, she's cleaning, did she poison him? Is she trying to get rid of her fingerprints? I mean, there's a lot of mystery behind it, and I think that's okay, because this story really moves very quickly, and it almost has to, because there's a lot of pain and a lot of trauma happening at the same time, and it almost reads as a thriller, in the end.
Question up here. Oh, so he was saying he sees a lot of parallels between this and Lucy's film Presence, and asked if that was intentional, or she knew about it.
It was not intentional. I had nothing to do with that, actually, funny enough. But the characters are quite different in that sense that, she was very clearly obsessed with her son, and more so than her daughter. And in a lot of ways, that movie is, kind of a horror movie. And but this one is, based on a true story. But there was a lot, I think, of undertones with her and her husband in presence that there was a lot of tension. But because her husband was willing to talk about them, even if she didn't want to, you could see a way through it. And in this case, for Rosemead, there was a lot of shrouding of facts or conversations, and that really started to push the ball down the wrong direction.
Right here. The question was which part Lucy connected with the most and what the biggest takeaway she wants from the film.
I think for me, this is a love story. That's the biggest takeaway for me. And that's, what this woman has done can be categorized as very monstrous. But I mean, I think if you look at it from the perspective that I was trying to, how I saw it, was just that she loved him so deeply that she didn't know how else to go on, knowing that she was going to be gone and that he was not well. And she did not know, she was not privy to understanding all of the facts about schizophrenia. And so I want people to have a conversation about it. This is not, a movie that you go home and you just brush your teeth and you go to sleep. This is something you talk about with somebody that was in the theater or not. And so that is the first and the simplest thing to do when you watch something that's this steep and almost unbelievable.
Right down here. The question was how you put yourself in a mindset of someone so sad and what the method for that is.
I don't know. I mean, I think that, it's something that, I mean, just thinking about how much this woman, I mean, it's a hard word to use, but she was so courageous to do that. And I really think that she tried her best to follow the system. She, went to a psychiatrist, and she didn't feel comfortable doing that, obviously. She gave him medicine that she probably did not necessarily believe in. She showed up in his session. She called the police even after the act. I mean, she really was trying her best to do everything that she was supposed to be doing, and it just wasn't working. And I think you can talk about things that were obvious, and then there are obviously things that were not necessarily expositional about the healthcare system, about, advocating for families that don't speak the language. And so there's so many questions there that can break your heart. So I don't know that I had to, go that far, but to know that you birthed a child and then you had to, take him out, it's just a horrific feeling inside. And I don't know where it came from, and I think I wouldn't be able to go back in the past and do it, but it was not a good feeling to be there. I can tell you right now. It was one of the, the hardest things I've had to do, but it was also, in such a strange way, really cathartic, because it was such a deep pain. And, I don't know if everybody holds that. And when you have to tap into something like that, it is something unforgettable. And it's a strand, you're tethered to something like that. And I can't imagine I know that she was in a lot of physical pain from the cancer, but I don't think that she could feel that more than she felt the emotional pain of her loss.
time for one more question. So the question was whether Lucy, if you pulled from any of your own cultural experience and infused that into the final product of the film.
I mean, it was undeniably, I grew up speaking Chinese and did not speak English. When I was growing up, I was the youngest of 3, and so my parents did not come home and speak broken English. So we didn't really, understand the, what was even going on in the outside world, that there were events, who was the president. I mean, it was like we had our own insular, newspaper within our own world, which was just no dialogue, eating very fast and eating whatever was there and available to us. I didn't know that, like vegetables came from the ground, like everything was frozen or in a can. So I didn't have to go too far for it, but I do think the language really helped to connect me with this character and bring me back to my roots and to many, many generations before me, and to pay homage to them as well as to honor them, and to understand that there is a lot of pain from, coming to this country, a lot of racism, a lot of lack of acceptance, and a lot of struggle. And she was, in that place, even though it was current times, because it's still really, really difficult for people, whether you speak the language or not. And so, Irene is not different from anybody else that's trying their best. And I think, if we were in some sort of a legal situation and we were getting advice, we wouldn't know that that's to ask for more advice, because we're not lawyers. If I go to the doctor and they tell me this is what you need, I wouldn't know that I would need to get a second, third, fourth opinion, And so that logistically, you also have to understand, that there was no privilege involved. And when you know that, you also see the circumstances are so much narrower, and, it becomes a much dimmer light.
That's all the time we have for the Q&A. Lucy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you guys. Thank you for this award.